Here's where family fun starts. Oldsmobile's Vista Cruiser. The beautiful station wagon, people wagon for young, active families on the move. Bigger, roomier than ever. It's 8 inches longer this year with a longer 121-inch wheelbase for extra riding comfort. The sky's the limit for family fun in a Vista Cruiser.
That was Oldsmobile in 1964, selling American families a station wagon with windows in the roof. Not a sunroof, real glass panels built into the raised rear roof so the kids in the back could look up and watch the sky go past. This is the Vista Cruiser, and 3 things about it are almost always told wrong. An engine that lost 90 horsepower overnight with nobody touching it. Glass roof that disappeared for a reason that has nothing to do with people not wanting it. And a designer nobody can agree on. Start with a decision Oldsmobile made before anybody drew a single panel. They wanted the third row of seats to face forward, not sideways along the walls, the way most wagons did it, not backwards, staring at the car behind you. Forward, like a person sitting in a car. And that one decision is the reason this car exists in the shape it does. Because to put 2 people back there facing forward, they need somewhere to put their feet. And on an ordinary wagon, there is nowhere. General Motors' new mid-size platform for 1964, the A-body, sat on a 115-inch wheelbase. It carried the Chevelle, the Tempest, the Skylark, the F-85, and the Cutlass. Ordinary cars for ordinary families. Oldsmobile stretched it. 120 inches for the first generation, 121 for the second. And the extra length did not go into the cargo bay, which is where you would put it if you were selling cargo space. It went into the rear doors, so the footwells could go underneath the third row. That is an expensive way to solve a small problem. Stretching a platform means new floor pans, new door skins, new tooling for one body style in one division. Oldsmobile did it so that 2 children in the back of a family wagon would not have to travel sideways. And then there is the roof. The Vista Cruiser's rear section sits higher than the front, and that raised section is glass. A tinted panel across the top, and lateral windows running down each side of the raised portion. Sun visors were fitted back there, because on a bright day, the kids needed them. Now here is where the story gets tangled, and I want to be straight with you about it, because the sources genuinely do not agree. The version you will hear most often is that a GM designer named Pete Wozina took the idea from the Cena Cruiser, the double-deck cross-country bus with the raised glass rear section, and brought it down onto a car. Except the people who worked with him say that is not what happened. By their account, Wozina arrived at the 2-level glass roof on his own, and the resemblance to the bus is just that. A resemblance, not a lineage. And there is a third version, which traces the idea back further still, to a Harley Earl concept from 1945 for a glass-roofed railway observation car. So, a bus, a train, or one man's imagination? I do not know. And anyone who tells you they know for certain is telling you more than the record actually supports. What is not in dispute is that it worked, and that almost nobody else got it. The glass roof body was shared with exactly one other car in all of General Motors, the Buick Sport Wagon. Chevrolet did not get it. Pontiac did not get it. If you wanted glass over the second row in a mid-size GM wagon, you bought an Oldsmobile or you bought a Buick, and that was the whole list. And think about what that meant in 1964. There is no minivan. There is no SUV. There is no such thing as a panoramic roof as a 4-figure option on a crossover. There is a family, a wagon, and a long drive, and Oldsmobile put a window in the ceiling so the drive would be less boring for the people who had the least say in it. The base price was $3,485. Picture a Saturday morning in a suburb somewhere in 1965. Wagon is on the driveway, the tailgate is down, and somebody is arguing about who has to sit in the third row. And the answer, if the family has one of these, is that the third row is the good seat. That is not a small thing to have engineered into a car. Now let's talk about the engines, because this is the part that made the Vista Cruiser something other than a nice family car. The first generation started modestly. The standard engine was actually a Buick-built 225 cubic inch V6, with the 330 cubic inch rocket V8 as the option. And depending on the year and the carburetor, The 330 ran anywhere from around 210 horsepower up towards the low 300s. The rocket name matters. Oldsmobile's Rocket V8 arrived in 1949 as one of the first modern overhead valve V8s in an American car, at a time when most of the industry was still running flatheads with the valves buried down in the block, choking. The rocket breathed. It won races. For the second generation, from 1968, the standard engine became a 350. A 400 was available in 1968 and 1969. And then in 1970, Oldsmobile did something slightly ridiculous. They put the 455 cubic inch rocket big block on the option sheet. That is the same engine family that went into the 442 in a station wagon, with wood down the sides and a glass roof and 3 rows of seats. Now, the horsepower. This is the one I promised you at the start, and it is the part almost everyone gets wrong. If you go looking for what the 455 Vista Cruiser made, you will find 4 different answers: 365, 320, 270, 250. Same engine, same car, wildly different numbers. Here is what actually happened, and no mechanic ever touched a single bolt. Until 1971, American manufacturers quoted gross horsepower. That figure came off a test stand with the engine stripped for the occasion. No air cleaner, no exhaust system, no cooling fan, ignition timing set exactly where it made the most power. It was a laboratory number. Nothing that ever left a showroom made it. For the 1972 model year, the industry switched to SAE net horsepower. Now the engine was measured as installed, fan turning, air cleaner fitted, real exhaust bolted on, timing set for a normal car on a normal day. California had demanded net figures in advertising from 1970, and rather than print one number in one state and another everywhere else, Detroit switched the whole country. The result was carnage on paper. A Cadillac 500 went from 365 to 235. A Corvette 350 dropped from 270 to 210. A Mustang 351, 240, down to 177. Nothing changed. Only the ruler changed. And it happened at exactly the wrong moment for this car. The 455 arrived in the Vista Cruiser in 1970, when the big gross numbers were still being printed. By 1972, the same engine was wearing a much smaller number on paper, and buyers reading the brochure had no idea they were comparing 2 different measurements. A lot of what people believe about how quickly American engines died in the early 70s comes from this. Some of the drop was real, and some of it was arithmetic. So when you read that a 455 Vista Cruiser made 365 horsepower and someone else says 250, they can both be right. One is quoting the old measurement, the other the new one. But whichever number you use, the character of the engine is the same, and the character is the point. The 455 was a long-stroke, low-revving, torquey engine. It did not want to be wound out. It pulled from just above idle, and it kept pulling. And in a car this heavy, that is exactly the right personality. A wagon full of people and luggage does not need to rev. It needs to move without complaining. And here's the thing that always gets me about the 455 cars. There was no badge for it, no stripe, no hood scoop, no call-out on the tailgate. From 20 feet away, it was somebody's mother's station wagon. Found out what it was at a green light, and by then it was too late to do anything about it. Now the third thing, why the glass roof disappeared. It was not because people stopped buying it. It was not a failure. For 1973, General Motors redesigned the entire mid-size line, the Colonnade cars. Heavier, squarer, built around new federal rollover and side impact requirements that were coming down the road. And in that redesign, the separate stretched wheelbase that the Vista Cruiser and the Buick Sport Wagon had shared was simply deleted. One platform for everybody. Once the special wheelbase was gone, the special roof went with it. The 1973 Vista Cruiser kept the name and lost the reason for the name. The glass was replaced by a plain roof with a vent panel, and that was that. Buick had already left. The Sport Wagon was gone after 1969. Oldsmobile carried the idea alone for 3 more years, and then the rulebook took it. The Vista Cruiser name limped on to 1977, by which point it was an ordinary wagon with a badge and a memory. And there is something quietly sad about the shape of that ending. Nobody killed this car. No executive decided the glass roof was a mistake. It simply did not survive a corporate decision about wheelbases made by people who were solving a different problem entirely. So what is one worth now? Haggerty puts a 1968 Vista Cruiser in number 3 condition. A good, honest, drivable car, not a show winner, at around $14,000. Sit with that for a second. $3,485 new in 1964. About $14,000 today for a decent one. Which means this is one of the very few interesting American cars from the 60s that has not been priced out of reach. A 442 with the same 455 in it will cost you several times that. The wagon with the same engine, the glass roof, and the 3 rows of seats is still, by classic car standards, cheap. Whether that stays true is another question. And there is one more thing, which is the version of this car that never happened. Oldsmobile had a performance division. They had the 442. They had the W30 package. They had every part they would have needed. And they never built a proper factory-hot Vista Cruiser. No W30 wagon, no 442 badge on a tailgate. They put the engine in it and left it at that. The car was right there. The parts were on the shelf. Somebody decided not to. So here is what I want to know from you. If you rode in the back of one of these, and a lot of you did, what do you actually remember? Not the engine, the roof. Whether you looked up, whether the glass got hot in July, whether it was worth being the kid who had to climb into the 3rd row. And if you were the one driving it, did you have the 455? Tell me in the comments. I read every one of them, and half the cars on this channel came out of somebody's answer. One forgotten American car out of the archives every week. If you want the next one, you know what to do.